Let's talk about the Ben Franklin effect. Now, this is not a typical cognitive bias like I often talk about in the video, but in terms of building teams and collaborations that work and that are effective when we're trying to solve problems, teams are powerful. There's a Ben Franklin effect that many people sort of overlook and we forget. And so the general kind of concept is that many of us think of is that if you are really kind to someone, if you do favors for someone else, you help them, that they'll feel grateful and they might be more inclined to reciprocate. And that's certainly true. And we want to be kind to other people. And in fact, I would argue that it's a virtue to be kind to people with no strings attached, with no expectations of getting anything back. That's a core part of my belief. But there's actually research to also show that when you invite someone to do a favor for you, that can actually lead them to think of you more favorably. So doing things kind to another person can cause you to like them more or see them in a more favorable light. So I want to share just sort of 5 lessons that are related to this that we can think about that I believe that can be helpful as we're trying to solve problems, we're trying to discover possibilities, opportunities, and maybe we're on one of those literal or metaphorical treasure hunts, or you're in the middle of gameplay in a way that requires collaboration. Just think about this and maybe test it out a little bit. Of course, I would say this is one of those where people could use it in a form of manipulation that could be unethical and inappropriate, and I certainly don't endorse that. But it is something for us to recognize. It's sort of how we as humans seem to be designed. So this first kind of lesson is that what I've said already is that favor does seem to create a kind of affection. When we help someone, our brain seems to sort of justify it by saying, I must like them. That's why I'm doing something kind for them. And I'm not sure if that's exactly what's happening in the brain, but somehow it does seem to happen. And there have been studies on this over and over and over again. So you can use this as a tool. Maybe you're working with someone and it's hard. Maybe it's someone you don't enjoy working with. Well, you might be you might be inspired to kind of withdraw. But what if you tried the opposite and you leaned in and you did some favors for them? See if it would change the way you thought about them and maybe thought about them more favorably. And similarly, it could be reciprocated. So that leads to the second one is this reciprocity, this reverse reciprocity. So instead of liking leading to favors, favors can actually lead to liking. So maybe you find a person that they seem to be a little bit grumpy and you're trying to collaborate with them to solve a problem, and you can be kind to them and should, and just again with no strings attached. But what if you tried inviting them and asking if they'd be willing to help you out? Now, that's a vulnerable thing. If someone seems to be a little bit rude or mean or something, why would you do that? But try it out and just see what happens. And you may actually find that they're a little bit more drawn to you and you can build more teamwork that way. So doing acts of kindness to another and receiving acts of kindness, both of those are important in building a strong team and a collaborative endeavor and effort. And if it's too much one direction, that can sometimes get problematic. Third one is, so just keep in mind, I guess I'm repeating myself a little bit, is realize that this can be a kind of social bridge, that in work or in play, other environments too, I'm sure asking small favors can actually build trust and open doors. So not just giving favors, doing kindness, but being willing to ask other people to help you can build trust and open some doors for further collaboration. The fourth one is start small with this. So begin with a smaller request, something where you're not really asking a ton of another person. You don't want to, say, hey, can I stay at your house for a week or something like that. We're talking about sort of smaller things, as you're getting to know someone. Maybe, could you recommend a book to me, or a restaurant that you really like? I'm new to this area, or a quick opinion, or a suggestion, or a tip, or something they found helpful, something that's pretty low stakes, but they're offering you a gift of their knowledge, their insight, their opinion, their perspective, their preference, whatever it might be. And again, that can start to build a connection, and they may invite you to do the same, and you're starting to build a little bit of a connection here. And then the last one is is now try applying this in play and game environments. It's a great place to practice this kind of team building and collaboration development. Is that when you're involved in a play environment, whether it's a sport or a game or treasure hunt or something like that, find some partners and practice this kind of give and take and see what it does to the development of teamwork. I think you may be surprised. It's a much simpler thing than we often realize. Sometimes we get in our own way and we make these things far more complex than they need to be. But sometimes being kind and inviting and welcoming people to give a kindness or a help to us, that's enough to start to build a foundation of some trust and teamwork and collaboration that can create some really great results. And maybe it'll help you discover that literal or metaphorical treasure. I hope you find this useful. I look forward to your comments.